Welcome to 10 Minute Climate, the podcast brought to you by Beaverbrook Energy. Beaverbrook Energy helps clients navigate the energy transition, identifying the best route forward, quantifying the costs and benefits, and delivering real-world results through funded and managed projects. Join Max.
Hi, I'm Max.
And Tony.
Hi, I'm Tony.
Who between them have got over 70 years of experience in the energy industry, and they're here to share it with you. Each episode, they'll cut through myths, answer the questions you've always wanted to ask, and break down the latest news about the energy transition. It's everything you need to know, delivered in just 10 minutes. So let's get started. Welcome to 10 Minute Climate.
One of the things that drives me is the belief in human progress. Okay.
Yeah.
And, we've got a massive problem with climate change, but my God, are we making progress? And one of the areas that I think people don't understand is how much progress we're making with batteries, with storage. And there's a statistic that came out last week that so far this year, we've saved about 4% of UK power emissions by using batteries.
That is an enormous amount. 4% is sort of size will be nuclear power station. That's like switching it off.
Yeah. That's big.
It's really
big. But let's go back. So I think we need to talk about, let's get to what a battery is, but let's start with why we need batteries. It kind of may be surprising to people that you want batteries on a power grid.
We've always thought about energy as like you go to the corner of the room and there's a little white box on the wall with a thing in the middle and you press it and the lights come on. And nobody ever thinks about what it takes to get that there all the time, 24 hours a day. And basically, because of the way electricity is, it's an instantaneous thing. You produce it as you use it, sort of thing.
I've been in energy for 15 years, but it has always confused me. The grid doesn't know I'm going to turn the light on or boil the kettle. So how
they have a good guess,
right? Okay, we've got batteries now. We'll get onto that.
Yeah.
But prior to batteries, okay, you can guess, but how the hell is it matched? Because you're not storing the electricity. So in the 1980s, when I was doing geography class,
yes,
okay, we were kind of taught about the grid. And what they said the biggest problem with the grid was the ad break in Coronation Street, right? Because everybody went and put the kettle on, the whole country. So, but how in that instantaneous point was that being managed by massive coal stations? Was it just, who did it? Who was saying turn it up now?
Basically, there's a national control room. Basically, it's a big plan on the wall, like a railway system, with all of the assets, what the assets are generating, where the energy is, everything else. And it's a bit of a balancing act, and that's why the grid charges people money for doing all of this. Use of system costs, etc., in that they will have units running on standby, not actually doing any work, but costing money to run, and then you throw the load at them. And what happens is there's one element of the electrical supply called the frequency, which you don't notice very much, but it does govern the speed of everything, how it works, whatever. And they control the loading by keeping that frequency within a very small amount of variation. And they basically bring assets on and off on the basis of that changing.
Okay, so back in the day, it was predictable and you had a guy like running the railway system. Right?
Yeah, because the TV Times came out and told you when the ad break was in the middle of Coronation Street. So.
But now you've got wind and solar. Now solar is pretty straightforward because when the sun comes up and goes down, there might be cloud cover. Wind is much more complicated and that causes much bigger problems, hence batteries.
We are going through a transition where we're actually putting loads of batteries in our life that people don't really think about. As we change to EVs, you're actually talking about a vehicle sitting in your driveway which can supply your house with energy for 3 or 4 days. But there's a massive investment in grid-scale batteries. The Chinese are leading the world on this because they realise that to make the best of renewables, you sometimes need to use the energy when the wind don't blow and the sun don't shine.
And what's extraordinary is the price drops that's coming. It started with solar and solar's exploded in a way nobody understood, but it's coming with batteries as well. They're throwing so much engineering resource, so much industrial resource at it that the pricing from February 23 to February 25 is dropping by 50%. Halving in 2 years. It's completely astonishing. And the other statistic is that they've either built or in construction of factories that can make 5 times the world's current demand for batteries. 5 times.
Yeah.
So
all that will happen is that the demand will expand, because all of a sudden you'll say, well, why hasn't every house in the land got a solar panel and a battery? Why isn't every open space covered in solar panels? And there'll be people who say, I don't want to look at solar panels, but I think that voice is starting to get drowned out a little bit, because you look at what the Chinese have done, and they've covered, I don't know what the normal measurement is, the size of Wales or something, but they've done
how many Waleses?
How many Waleses have they covered with solar panels? And they've actually got to the point where they're getting so cocky about this that they make them in visually pleasing patterns. I mean, I saw an aerial shot of a solar farm that was laid out with different hues of panels that looked like a panda. And I mean, and it was hundreds of acres of solar panels that looked like a panda.
That's hilarious.
Great job.
But getting back to the batteries, the point is, so 4% of UK emissions were reduced by using batteries this year, and that's time shifting wind and solar instead of using gas. So it's saying, right, normally we'd use gas in the evenings because obviously it's not sunny and it might not be windy. So we're going to catch the sun in the middle of the day, or when it's windy, we're going to store it and we'll release it onto the system in the evening at scale. And we're talking gigawatts. And a gigawatt's, just so people understand, we're average load in the UK in the summer 15 gigawatts, and in the winter 45.
45,
So,
It used to be a lot more.
Yeah. And we have 1.5, 2 gigawatts of batteries at the moment.
About that.
So it's a reasonable percentage if you can capture it and use it, and it makes a difference.
Yeah.
But then the other thing about batteries that I think is astonishing is this narrative pushed that we're not going to have enough minerals, that we can't mine enough for it, which is, it's wrong on two counts, because firstly we can, and secondly we won't need to.
No, because we can recycle them.
Yeah.
I mean, I think one of the reports that came out in the last few months is that the Chinese are aiming for like a 96% circular economy in battery materials, and they'll get to a certain saturation point where the batteries that come to the end of their cycle life, 6,000, 8,000, 10,000 cycles, whatever it is they're on then, will just be trashed and the materials recovered and put back in the system again. And like any recovery system, you lose a bit, but they are almost catalytic materials. They don't degrade while you use them.
And when you put that in context of time, the materials that are in the batteries today, the battery you've got in your house or is in my electric car, those same materials will be still being used in batteries in 100 years' time, maybe in 300 years' time. Yeah. It's astounding.
Because it's not like a finite resource like hydrocarbons. Basically, there's carbon stored in the hydrocarbons.
In the fuels.
And you basically break them down normally by burning, and you release the carbon again. That's what's causing the problem. Whereas where you've got an interaction between materials in a battery that allows you to store energy in it, and when the energy leaves again, it's still the
mineral's
same.
still there.
It's
You
still-
haven't,
you're
not burning
burnt it or eaten it or anything. Yeah.
It's all about burning. And I think what's hilarious is that back in 2020, there was the huge thing about lithium. Everyone's like, we don't have enough lithium. We don't have enough lithium. And 21, 22, 23, massive amounts of lithium were found in the US, I think 2 or 3 mines, in India, in Iran. And the result is now lithium prices on the floor. And again, now the Chinese are saying, actually, we don't need lithium. We're going to use sodium. And where do we get sodium from? Seawater.
Yes,
it's like,
which there's quite a lot of.
There's quite a lot of.
And all those shortages that they say they come out at, they never finish the sentence, because what they actually mean is we haven't got enough of this at the present level of knowledge and cost. Like if you imagine, let's go back to hydrocarbons. If you want to find some more oil, there's 2/3 of the surface of the planet that's hardly been touched, because it's really expensive to go and drill in the North Atlantic for oil. But if you can find lithium in Cornwall now, as they are opening mines up to mine for lithium in Cornwall, why not 600 miles off Land's End? Because the price doesn't justify it.
I think there isn't a case in human history where we have run out of something as such.
And you sometimes find yourself as a miserable old cynic. What benefit is there for people making statements like this? Is it just to bump the price up? Is it just to preserve a position? Because a lot of the fear factor of transitions to renewables is almost like the tobacco industry and cancer in the 1940s and 50s. Oh, you've got nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's, you don't want an electric car because there won't be a car industry, or you don't want a battery because of this or that, or they catch fire. And it's like, no, they don't. Why would somebody say they catch fire? What's the benefit of somebody saying they catch fire?
Well, I think it starts with saying, I'm not sure about the science. I don't think we're there.
Yeah.
And that's gone by now because people are
think so.
feeling. People feel it themselves. They go on holidays to southern Spain and they're like, shit, it's hot. But the way the kind of entrenched interests are coming against renewables now is it's that very gentle feasibility. It's, oh, well, it's not really, I don't think we can do this quite yet, That it's the gentle opposition that doesn't, the solar panels don't look good in the field.
Yeah.
People saying, well, the problem with cobalt used in batteries is that it's mined by kids in DRC. So, okay, that's not really the problem with the batteries. That's the problem with governance in the DRC and the problem with supply chains. And cobalt has been used in many other things, like medical devices, whatever, for decades. You don't hear that, oh, well, you can't have I'm guessing, an X-ray.
Yes.
Because of the cobalt and the kids.
Yeah.
No one's saying that. So why aren't they saying that about medical devices, but they are saying it about batteries? Well, exactly your point. It's the old cynic is that, rightly, because there's somebody who's paid to come up with some arguments to slow it down.
And then you get the other argument, which is basically saying, well, if we all go back to riding a bicycle and living in a field and give up all of the changes in society in the last 200 years, we'll have solved the problem. And we would. But I don't think you'll find many people wanting to take a retrograde step in how they live and going back to no MRI scans, no cancer treatment, no transport, fluctuations in food supply, all of the things that you get associated with a non-modern society. And I can understand the push to say, do we really need all this stuff? And the answer is, well, unless we want to change the whole planet and the way everybody interacts and say to the entire developing world, you can't have what we've had for the last 200 years because we've blown it all, so you can't play, I think it's just not going to be sustainable as an argument.
Thanks so much for tuning in to today's episode. If you enjoyed the conversation, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave us a review. It really helps us grow and continue bringing you valuable content. If you're curious to learn more about Beaverbrook Energy and how we're navigating the future of energy, feel free to reach out to us directly. And for those looking for quick, actionable insights on the energy transition, be sure to subscribe to our 10-second climate newsletter, delivered every weekend with essential intelligence to help business leaders stay ahead of the curve. We appreciate you listening, and we look forward to having you join us again next time. Stay informed, stay engaged, and take care.